Hi, my name is Terry Nipshield, and I'd like to share a technique with you that I learned about in the early 80s that will allow you to determine if there's iron in the hole or if it's a more desirable conductive target using the pinpoint mode of your metal detector. Now, when I learned this technique, I got the distinct impression by my metal detector dealer who taught me that not too many people knew about it. What this technique does is use the properties of the pinpoint detecting field, which is different than your primary detecting mode, along with the fact that different metals respond to the pinpoint mode in different ways. Now, this is my first video, so what it lacks in professional production value, I hope I'll make up for with a decent tip. Now, to illustrate the different properties of your detecting fields, motion mode versus pinpoint mode, watch this next little clip and you'll get the idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, this is to illustrate the properties of different detecting fields created by your metal detector, whether you're using motion detect, which is your primary detecting mode, or pinpoint mode. Now I'm using the macro simplex. My settings are park 1 bar low of max sensitivity, and the first 4 notches blacked out, which will allow me to still detect American nickels. Unfortunately, it doesn't, as many of you have realized, it doesn't do a real good job of getting rid of bottle caps at those lower settings. And if there's one thing I wish Nocta Macro would revisit, it's their algorithm on discriminating out iron targets like bent nails and bottle caps at those lower settings. They tend to read in the 50s, and that makes it confusing. However, this technique should help you eliminate that. So what I'm using to demonstrate this, that little square that you're looking at, is the lid to a steel tin can and is meant to simulate buried iron. So let's see what kind of a response we get in normal hunting mode with the simplex. Now you can see the edge of my coil is actually over the target, and I'm not getting any response. But if I go directly over the target, I get a response. Again, away and on top of. Away and on top of. Now watch what happens when we go into pinpoint mode. You can see that it's responding much further away from the target. You don't have to be right over the target to hear a response. Again. Okay, that will illustrate the properties of the different detecting fields, and we're going to use that property along with the fact that the pinpoint mode also responds differently to different kinds of metals to use the pinpoint mode to distinguish iron, and you can also conversely use it to identify conductive targets such as gold, silver, copper, brass, bronze, or lead. One quick note, when you're using this technique to identify the target in the ground in pinpoint mode, as I mentioned, we're going to use the edge of the target, or excuse me, the edge of the coil, and the distance from the edge of the coil to target center to determine whether the target is iron or something that's conductive. Because the new coils, as you can see, have a recessed little dip in them, it makes it hard to determine where that edge is. So I recommend using one of the lobes to either side of this little valley here and push that towards the center of the target. That way you'll know more precisely where the edge of your coil is. It's very tough to determine that when there's nothing there. So use the two lobes on the front, either one of the front lobes on the coil, and that should give you an accurate result. All right, I'd like to show you some buried targets that I prepared for this demonstration, and to show you how this reacts to iron in the ground. This first target is a bar of steel about 2 inches by 3 inches long, 3/16 of an inch thick. In regular detect mode, it's ringing up into the 70s and low 80s. But watch what happens when I put it in all metal pinpoint. You see how it's reacting to the field of the detector when the coil is at least 2 inches away, not more. Try it again. Okay. Again, you're going to have to note the position of target center relative to the edge of the coil. This next trash target is a flattened aluminum can buried at 8 inches. (75-76) on the simplex. Let's put the pinpoint mode in action. Again, it's reacting at least 2 inches away from target center. That's something you would never see on a coin. This next target is a aluminum screw cap found on a lot of liquor bottles, etc. And this goes between the high 60s to mid 70s. Watch how it reacts in pinpoint mode. Get your threshold. Again, the coil is well away from the target center before you start hearing a target. This next item is a square pull tab. And at my discrimination setting, I'm not picking it up. Watch what happens in pinpoint mode. Not as dramatic. Again, it's reacting before the edge of the coil passes the target. This next item is a bent nail. No problem discriminating a bent nail out at four black, as the first 4 notches blacked out. But look how it reacts to pinpoint mode. Again, I'm quite a ways away from the target before I get a signal. And this is the bane of all of us here. This is a bottle cap buried at about 5 inches. All these targets are about 4 to 5 inches, by the way. with the exception of the first one, which is the large iron bar is like 7-8 inches. Mid-60s, and here's what it sounds like in all metal pinpoint. There you go. That's how trash targets react. Now watch this. This is quite interesting. Watch how it reacts to a silver coin represented by the red dot. I'm in park mode, 1 notch down from max sensitivity. No problem picking up that silver dime at 5.5 inches. Let's see how it reacts in pinpoint mode. As you can see, the coil passes target center, goes right over it before you get any kind of a slight increase in sound. Here's a silver quarter buried at about 6 inches. Again, it's a red dot. Here it is in pinpoint mode. As you can see, the edge of the coil has gone past target center before it starts to register. That's the difference between conductive metals and iron in pinpoint mode. Now this last target, it's not a typical target, but I thought I should bury some gold. This ring is the largest, heaviest gold ring I have found in 44 years of detecting. It is a real knuckle buster, and it's 14 karat gold. It's a large class ring. Let's see how this technique works for large gold. Alright, register's about 71. Let's see where the pinpoint mode picks it up. Again, the edge of the coil is covering target center before it starts to increase. Alright, I hope that illustrates the point I'm trying to make and how you can use pinpoint mode to distinguish good targets from iron. This demonstration is not in any way intending to tell you what to dig. You make that decision. But for those who like to dig iron, this is a great tool for anyone who wants to use it and identify an iron target in the ground before they dig. Likewise, for those of us who do not like to dig iron, this is a great way to identify iron so you can avoid digging it. Depending on where you are and what your interests are, that will determine whether you decide to dig or not. But this technique is neutral. It just tells you more information about the target to give you an informed decision before you decide to dig or not to dig.